So I ended up writing a check for $41,615, and the expense was completely unanticipated. What's up, everyone? Mike Muellner here. I'm an internal medicine doctor from Los Angeles, California, and I want to talk to you guys about a little snafu that occurred with my taxes, which, long story short, resulted in me having to pay over $40,000 in unpaid taxes, which I thought I already paid. The purpose of this video is to give you guys a heads up, so if any of you are in the same boat with paying taxes, especially taxes with a K-1 form, hopefully you don't end up in this situation. So first, a little backstory. I'm not a guy who's used to paying a huge amount of taxes because I never really made a whole lot of money. In fact, I spent much of my young adult life either in school or in training. It was 11 years total training to become an internal medicine physician. That's 4 years in college, 4 years in medical school, and then 3 years of residency. And then during this time, you don't really make much. I mean, in medical school, I was living off my parents. And then in residency, I think my annual salary was like $45,000. And if you divide that with the hours worked, these are oftentimes 60 to 80-hour work weeks. It's like minimum wage. So I didn't really make a whole lot of money. There wasn't a lot of taxable income there. And even what income was taxed, it was automatically deducted from my paycheck, so I didn't have to worry about that. But then fast forward to when I finally get done with all this training and I get my first job as a full-time physician. Obviously, the salary increases, but also the type of taxes changes. I no longer fill out a W-2 form, but rather a K-1 form. Now, I don't really understand it that well, but from what I can gather, taxes are not automatically deducted from my paychecks. Instead, it's all on me to set that money aside to pay taxes in 4 installments. So I have to submit a check or make a payment online to the IRS and the state of California every January, April, June, and September. So when I first heard about this, I thought, no big deal. Okay, sure, it's complicated, but I'll hire a good accountant and basically I'll just do whatever he tells me to do. And so that's exactly what I did. My accountant looked at all my taxes and just gave me a summary of what I was expected to pay as my estimated taxes, both for federal and state, 4 times a year. Now, I'm not somebody who's going to spend money like crazy. I know that I have to set money aside for this. And so that's exactly what I did. And I made those payments and I've been doing it since 2021. Fast forward to the present day. Just yesterday, I was on a night shift and I overheard some of my colleagues talking about their taxes. We got to make that payment in January. It's due January 15th. And one of them asked the question, do I label this as 2022 or 2023 for the tax year? And the answer is 2022. Label it for last year. But that's not what I did. And that's not what I've been doing. I would always just label it whatever the current year is. So when I submitted my taxes before January 15 of this year, I said, well, it's 2023, so I'll say that this is for the 2023 tax year. No, that is completely wrong, and my coworker called me out on that. And so now I'm starting to get a little worried because I've been doing this for the last several years. I wanted a way to check up on this to make sure all my tax payments were going through. So there is a way you can actually make an account for the IRS to sign in. I never did it before because I was always worried that it was going to be some kind of a scam, like because you have to give a lot of your personal information away to do it. And so I never did it before, but I finally made an account. I logged in, and that's where, much to my great surprise, I found that I owe over $40,000 in unpaid taxes dating back to 2021. And the way this happened is because every time it's January, I would say that the tax year was the current year, not the prior year. And so it looks to the IRS like I've been stiffing them out of the 4th estimated tax payment every year. Now, for some of the years, it was kind of okay because the payment would roll over. For example, I think last year I paid in January and I said it was for 2022. And then that kind of covered me at least partially for the payments in 2022. But the big problem was when I first started working at my current job back in 2021, there I totally just did not pay an entire quarters of estimated taxes. And because I'm just now catching this several years after the fact, I've had to pay thousands of dollars in fines and also accrued interest for the unpaid taxes. So yeah, this was not how I was expecting to start off 2023. I guess I am starting it off with a financial bang, but not in a good way. So I know this video is a little different from my usual medical or healthcare themed content, but I think it's pretty important, especially for anybody who is kind of new to paying estimated taxes. I just don't want you guys to make the same mistake. Thanks for tuning in. If you like this content, feel free to hit the subscribe button there. And here's another video you can check out here, and I'll see you guys next time.